Hey everybody, Dave here, and I know it's been a long time since you've seen a video from me and you're saying, Dave, what the hell happened to you? Where have all your videos been? Well, I apologize, I have an excuse. So, as you all know, I work for a camera store. If you watch my previous vlogs, I work for a camera store here in town called Peace Camera, and I recently have started up a YouTube channel for them. So I do a video every single week from the store, and that's really been taking up a lot of my time. So if you like to see those videos, I do unboxings, reviews, and tips. Go check out that channel. I'll leave a link in the channel description below so you can go check it out, and hopefully you'll subscribe as well. Another reason I haven't been doing any videos is the business side. My photography business is starting to get very busy, which is a very good thing, and video has really taken over my business a lot more as well, so hence the reason I am making this video. So I wanted to invest in a higher end video camera for a couple of reasons. Number one, I shoot with the Sony A7 II, which is filming us right now, but it does have limitations. One is the recording time. I can only record 29 minutes and 59 seconds per video video clip at one time, and then I have to stop and restart the video. Now, while that's fine, most of the times you don't need to shoot for anything more than 30 minutes at a clip, but some events you do. So for an example, I shot a wedding a couple of months ago, and the ceremony was well over an hour long, and I was waiting for that right time where I was able to pause the video, stop it, restart it again, and try not to skip a beat. But sometimes it's hard. The preacher goes on and on, doesn't take any noticeable pauses, then yeah, it's quite hard to do. Other events that I've shot where you're having people talking, sometimes they're going to go on for more than a half hour, so you need that extra recording time. And the way I was able to get around with it is using an Atomos recorder, but sometimes you can't always use that. It's an extra recorder to have, and if you're running and gunning, sometimes that's not always available to have on you as well. Another problem I've run into at that same wedding that I was talking about before is overheating. So if you're shooting a lot of video clips at a time, sometimes the camera can overheat and it'll just stop recording altogether. Now, this happened during the first dance. So I was videoing the first dance, which is one of the most important parts of a wedding couple's video, and the camera decided to overheat and shut off on me. So I had to wait a few seconds, let it reset itself, and then I was able to start recording again, but I missed a good chunk of the first dance. Now I was able to play around in the editing suite and make it work, but again, at that point I decided, okay, it's time to invest in a real video camera. So I started doing research, and on all different video cameras. I was looking at Blackmagic, I was looking at Canon, and I was looking at Red, even though I could never afford Red cameras, but I decided to stick with the Sony brand because I already have a Sony camera, I have Sony lenses, and makes it easy. So I decided on the PXW-FS5, and this is it right here. This is my new camera, and boy do I love this thing, and I'm going to go all over with it with you. So I was either going to choose between this or the bigger brother to this, which is the FS7, but I decided to go with the FS5 mainly for price. This is about $2,000 cheaper than the FS7 and about $4,000 cheaper than the FS7 Mark II. The FS7 is also much bigger. It's just meant to be a shoulder rig camera, where this is meant to be a more run and gun camera, documentary style, which is kind of going to fit more my style shooting that I want. Now, if I want to make this a shoulder rig, there's easy ways to do that, but I really love the form factor. It's small. Records the cheaper cards, which I'll go over to in this video. So this camera outfit itself altogether was still an expensive camera. This came out to $6,450 for the setup that you see here in front of you, with the 18-105 f4 kit lens and the shotgun microphone that I have here. So yes, it is a very expensive, but the other cameras you're starting getting to $8,000, $10,000, $12,000 and more for a true cinema camera like this, and this was just a good value. Another great option is the ability to mount lenses. Since there's such a short flange distance between the sensor, I could put adapters on and I can mount lenses from Canon, from Nikon, Leica, Hasselblad, anything I want to put on here. I could also even get a PL mount, so I could put on those really nice high-end cinema lenses if I ever could afford them, but I could always rent them. So let's go over some of the specs of this camera. This camera could shoot in 4K video at 8-bit 420 at up to 30 frames per second, and then in full HD it could shoot at 422 10-bit up to 240 frames per second. Now the higher frame rates will only go in 8-second bursts, so anything over 60 frames it's in what's called a burst mode. So the camera is going to record and put into a cache memory, and then when you hit the record button, depending on what side trigger, if you do start trigger or end trigger, it'll record those 8-second buffer and then write it to the card. I played around with it just a little bit and I think it's really cool. I got to play around with it some more. Now this does have an option of shooting full raw output for it to be another $500 upgrade, which I will eventually do, and then I can update output 4K 12-bit raw to an Atomos Shogun recorder or an Odyssey 7Q. The camera also shoots in S-Log2 and S-Log3, which is a very flat profile and allow you to color grade and give you take a full advantage of the 14 stops of dynamic range. Another neat feature of this camera is called clear image zoom. This will take an algorithm that Sony has figured out, because it's basically like a digital zoom. And if you ever have like one of those point and shoot cameras with the digital zoom on it, you know how when you zoom in, image gets terrible looking and gets all degraded. On here, they figured it out, and you can make any lens, including primes, a zoom. So you can take a 35mm prime, make it a 35 to 70. So what it'll do is just zoom in, and the algorithm, you don't see any degradation at all. It's crystal clear and is beautiful. So it gives you a lot more versatility of these lenses. The autofocus on it is actually quite good as well, although a lot of us who shoot cinema and stuff full time are going to use manual focus and use the focus speaking feature on here. Another great selling feature of this camera was the ND. So this camera has a built-in ND filter. So you have a switch here that says clear right now, but you turn it and it has 3 different stops, and you can program how much ND you want on each stop. But what the best feature about this is it has a variable ND. So you flip the switch over to variable and move this wheel, and this camera will do a variable ND and it's stepless, so you won't even notice it. You go from 1/4 all the way up to 1/128 of ND, which means you could do an ND pull as if you're going from inside outside to a bright sunny day. You can just ramp up the ND and not have to change your aperture so you can keep that depth of field that you had already had set before. Next is the form factor. I really like the way this camera feels. This handle is really nice in the hands, and it has a lot of cool features on it as well. It's fully adjustable, so if you want to shoot low, you can rotate the wheel this way. If you're going to shoot real high up, you can rotate this way. So whatever way you feel comfortable. And it also has all the function buttons on it. It's got 2 main function buttons, your focus zoom ring, your record button, a joystick for going through the menus, and then you have another function button down on the front as well. So you could really access everything just with the one hand. This is also removable, as has a bayonet style mount to this. The handle is also removable and is really nice. It comes with the built-in mic, the Sony hot shoe, another cold shoe. It's got 1/4 points all over it for mounting anything on it. The LCD is also quite nice, and is completely removable and adjustable as well. It comes with a long enough cord that you could take this and mount it even somewhere else. And if you really wanted to make this camera down really light, you could take the handles off, you could take the side handle off, and you could just have the camera using the OLED viewfinder in here and a lens, and then you can run this on a gimbal or even a drone. So this camera is very versatile in that form factor. Another thing I like is it records to SDXC cards, which are much cheaper than the bigger FS7, which records to XQD cards. They're much more expensive. They could record a lot faster, but again, the expenses. I have a ton of these cards already, so I didn't have to invest in a lot more of SD cards. Camera also features 2 XLR inputs as well, one on the handle and then one on the back of the camera, and I currently have my Sennheiser shotgun mic plugged into that as well. And then if you do choose the raw recording, it has SDI out, so you can record right to an Odyssey or Atomos Shogun, HDMI as well, and even has a LAN port for doing a LAN connection if need be. So again, this camera was expensive, but I think it was a worthwhile investment for me, and I'll hopefully make all that money back over the course of the next few months doing more of these video shoots. So what's next for me? I need to really play around with this camera. I hope to do a full-on review after a few months of me having this camera, really getting to know it and learn it. And I'll throw up some short films as I make them with this camera, just so you can see the capabilities of this camera and really test it out. So that's going to wrap up this video. If you like this video, please do hit the like button, subscribe to my channel if you aren't subscribed already, and I want you to leave a comment down below too. Let me know what you think of this guide. Would you rather have this or the FS7? Curious to see what you think, or any other selection of video cameras, if any of you have shot with any of the others, like the Red, the Aries, the Canons. Let me know. I'd be curious. So that's going to do it, and I'll see you all next video.